welcome to the Open Paddock RallyCast. This is episode 44 for Wednesday, December 5th, 2018. In this episode, we chatted with Texas Dave Carapetyan of Rally Ready Rally School. If you don't know Dave, you don't know what you're missing. The following 2 hours covers everything from Pikes Peak and a hilarious encounter with Sebastien Loeb, to Aaron Kaufman and the Discovery Channel with some digs at JVL, UTVs and changes in the auto industry, more smack talk of JVL, gluten-free beer, as well as the Baja 1000 and pea bags glued to wieners. Did I mention we smack talk JVL? It's lots of laughs with the rallyists that Texas should be very proud of. This is Open Paddock, the RallyCast. Well, hello, and as I said, we have our special guest with us this evening. It is Texas Dave. Dave, is it Carapetyan? Is that how you say it? I swear I've got to be messing that up.
Man, that's good enough. It's you can't screw it up worse than I've heard before. So yeah, Carapetyan. That was probably. I mean, I was give you like a 98 on that one. That's pretty good.
I'll take that. I'll take that. But Texas Dave from Rally Ready Rally School. You've had quite the year so far. Most recently we've known you from racing up here with the guys from the Discovery Channel and Aaron Kaufman, all that stuff with the shifting gears thing. But you've got quite the program you have going on down there in Texas with the Rally Ready Rally School. But before we get into that, I want to know, how did you get started in this whole rally gig? Because we don't hear a lot of it in Texas.
Yeah, no, there's not many folks that aren't hanging out here who are involved in the sport in Texas. I grew up here in Austin. I guess technically I live in Dale now, but I grew up in Austin, and in high school I started playing in a bunch of like punk rock and hardcore bands, and some of the guys I was playing in some bands with were in their probably early 20s at the time, and were super into like street racing and drag racing Hondas, and so I started hanging out with those guys. I grew up in a house with like my great grandpa's Lincoln logs, and occasionally PBS would come on, and that was about all my digital entertainment. So I didn't grow up with video games or any of that stuff. It was like, I'd get shoved out the door on a bicycle every day after school. And so hanging out with some of these guys, I was at their house when I must have been 15, and was playing Gran Turismo 3, and was like, you guys, are you kidding me? Do you guys not know about the rallying in this game? And they're like, yeah, it's cool, man, whatever. I was like, I don't feel like you guys understand. Like, why aren't we just doing this all day, every day? And they're like, because it's a video game. And I was like, no, we can just get rally cars, right? Like, I'm sure it's that easy. So I just went down the Google spiral. Of course, this is pre-YouTube. And so I found Pat Richard's 2003 season highlights video and downloaded it. And if it was a VHS tape, I would have worn it out. I watched
Awesome.
it so many times. And so, yeah, I just dove in head first. I sold all my recording gear and all my music stuff, and I bought a suit and helmet and stuff off of Rally Nuts. And then I basically spent what would have been my college money to buy my first rally car on my 17th birthday.
Wow, you went all in.
Yeah, no, it was there's my parents look good in hindsight. They look like, wow, they're just visionaries. No, that was a terrible decision. Do not buy your 17-year-old a rally car for his birthday. That is not good parenting. Jesus. Like, what? That's not how this works at all, people. So so I bought a car from old Ivor Wiggum, formerly of the European Rally School, now the firm in Florida. And it was his personal rally car, and it was an Integra Type R. And of course, like growing up with all these like Honda kids, that's like the holy grail of all holy grails. So to get a Type R rally car, like, are you kidding me? That's not even real life. So, so I went from daily driving. I had two vehicles. My mom had an 87 Chevy Nova, which is just a Corolla with a Chevy badge, that she got for $500 after my sister totaled her Kia Sportage. And then my dad, in the late 80s, he bought a 56 Ford F100, no power steering, 3 on the tree, straight 6. And I have 2 older sisters, and he was like, you guys want to drive? That's your car. Good luck. So both of my older sisters drove this thing to the high school parking lot with no power steering. And I came along, and of course, that was like, first vehicle I learned how to drift in and slide around in, and which is highly dangerous because it's like 13 turns lock to lock. So like you initiate a slide and then you like kind of let the wheel shuffle through your hand at the
Mm-hmm.
time, and it's like just like rope burn across your palm. Um, but yeah, so I just same as everybody else, just hood rat kid trying to find cool places to do stuff, driving through fields and whatever else. Got my rally car when I was 17. First event was Rally de Paris here in North Texas, and which I now defunct, was one of the coolest rallies on old tank training roads at the National Guard base.
Also, it was at a
And
National Guard because I was looking this up, because I mean, as any good journalist, EWRC results, they have always all the data on everybody's finishing history,
yeah,
and at events, and so Rally de Paris, I was not familiar with this rally.
oh man, Rally de Paris was so awesome. So it was a National Guard base, and all the troops went home for Thanksgiving, so we got run of the place Thanksgiving weekend. So it was a bunch of tank training roads, and so we
So
would
it's your own
run.
Panzerplot.
That's exactly it. Yeah, yeah. Watch out for the Hinkelsteins. So we were however many 12 rally cars, which was that would be a 5-state effort to get 12 rally cars at that thing, because there's none in Texas. It's like if you look at the map of rallies in North America, this is the most inconvenient place you could be, arguably. Um,
I
I'm
was
sure.
thinking that because I mean the closest one to you is 100 Acre Wood, and that's I think I looked it up. It's 13 hours.
That's the one. Yep. So, um, yeah, so we did Rally to Paris. I had never seen a rally, never been to a rally. Um, Showed up with a rally car. Didn't quite understand the difference between stage notes, pace notes, and tulips, and um, I paid diligent attention. I mean, I for the past, the year before that, I did nothing but, read SECA Performance Rally Rulebook and memorize everything I could, and I was just like down the rabbit hole. But still, at 17, and so I stuffed it on the second to last stage on my first event, but I managed to get it out and finished. And so because I was the only car in production, got my sweet win, and that earned me an invite to the Club Rally National Championships. I was like, well, here we go, this is it. So showed up again, first out of one car. So pretty much just killing the game. I was already a national champion my second event in. And so the next event we decided to do was just like looking on the calendar, what's coming up. And we're like, oh, Pikes Peak, we should go do that because it was part of the Rally America calendar. So third event ever was Pikes Peak in a stock Acura Integra with, I think we dynoed 120 wheel horsepower in Denver, which is, 4,000 feet lower than the start line.
Yeah, right.
Pikes Peak. The thing, dude, you'd shift to third gear on the top section. You'd be like second, where, third, where. Oh man, it was a pathetic effort, but that for me, like that became my whole life. So what EWRC wouldn't show is I did 11 years in a row at Pikes Peak after that. So
Wow.
yeah, I did 11 hill climbs there, and I
That
I
is
say that.
on my bucket list. It is one of the quintessential events in North America, in the world, really, to go witness. I've got
Yeah,
my Indy
it's
500 badge. I've been there. That's on that bucket list, right? And Pikes Peak's right up there.
totally, and it's a good one to have on your bucket list because it's a good place to die, for whether you're spectating, driving, or otherwise. There's no shortage of different ways. My sister was gently struck by lightning there.
Oh,
Um, I
jeez.
I stuffed a rally car into a snowbank in July there. Um, Obviously, we all know about old Foley's folly, Jeremy Foley hooking up
Mm-hmm.
the side and giving it the old spin dry. Yeah, it's a good place to go if you got a bucket list. Just make sure it's the last thing on the bucket list because you may or may not get to the other things. I always liken. I mean, I think all motorsport, but Pikes Peak especially it is all the parallels to just a bad drug addiction. Like every year, I'm like, okay, it's gonna be great. It's gonna be awesome. And we show up, and it is the most miserable thing. And all my money is gone. I'm like a total junkie all week. I don't sleep. I'm like barely eating. I'm a shell of a human. All my relationships are just like in tatters afterwards. You go home and you're like, okay, I'm never doing it again. And you sober up, and then few months goes by and you're like, yeah, no, I think that was the last one for me. And then, you're like, oh, entries are closing in a few weeks. I'll just enter, but I can always like withdraw if I don't, no, I'll just. And then next thing you know, you're like, what am I doing here again? It's like, oh, it is hell week. It is hell.
What makes Pikes Peak such a hell week? Is it just because so much has to be crammed into that short amount of time?
So, in a rally, you've got X number of days, 3 or 4 days between recce and scrutineering, and 2 days of stages or whatever, and you're part of a championship generally, and you have a vehicle that can go do all these other rallies, or in the case of UTVs, which we'll get to in a bit, can do anything with. Pikes Peak is like, it's a one-trick pony. Almost like 90% of the field there, it's a purpose-built car for this 12.42 mile hill climb that just becomes this all-consuming part of your world. It's like, if you look at, like you were just saying, the EWRC results, it's pretty clear when Pikes Peak took over, because it's like, oh yeah, we did some events, no, it's just exclusively just became Pikes Peak. And it went from like we'd take our rally car and put some asphalt tires on it, to we'd take a rally car and put a big turbo on it and then add a wing, and then it was bought a Pikes Peak car, and then only had a Pikes Peak car with 700 horsepower and a splitter so big we could have hosted the Last Supper on it. And so that, but it's, you're up at 2:00 in the morning, you're on the mountain at 4, and you're driving from 6 to 9 in the morning for 4 days straight in freezing temperatures often. And it's just it is one of the most brilliant and exciting places on the planet. But yeah, I did my time.
But and you got to be there before it was all paved, and then also, I guess, into the transition when it was, I'm guessing, right?
Yeah, so my first year was 2005, like I said, when it was a Rally America event, and so ran in a production car. I came back in 2006 when I just entered the hill climb proper in a supercharged car. 2005, there was about a mile of asphalt from the start line to, I guess 2 miles from the start line to picnic grounds, which is on the lower section there. Mm-hmm. And then from picnic grounds all the way up through the W's all the way to the top was all gravel. 2006, added a little bit more in some sections, and then every year since, it just, it was paving all the way through 12. When Reese got the record, and then obviously we know who came along the year after. And
yeah, we do.
That was, of all the things I've been fortunate enough to get to do in my, I guess not such a short career now. Standing on top of Pikes Peak watching the sunrise, it's just me and Sebastien Loeb, and his car was parked. I pull up behind him, and we're in the same class. I'm like competing against him. I use big giant air quotes when I say that.
Right.
It's wow. Like nobody was competing against Sebastien that year. But I parked the car next to him, and I get out, and you're like, so it's you and Loeb on top of Pikes Peak, 6:30 in the morning. What do you say? So I just walk up and stand next to him and kind of look over, and I was like, hey man, my wing's bigger, but your car keeps going faster, dude. I don't get it. And he just turns and looks at me and like kind of looks away, and I was like, all right, well, I guess that one didn't land. And he turns back and he goes, yes, but you are engineer, mechanic, driver, and also truck driver, no? And I was like, yeah, among other things. And he goes, yes, but I am only driver, so my job is much easier. Your job is much harder than mine. And
respect,
I was like,
man, that is awesome.
So great. And so I just go, man, all I'm taking away from this conversation is you just said I'm better than you. So that's all I heard. And he's like, okay, if that's what you're hearing, then yeah, man, it's good for you. But he was so much. And same thing when Gronholm was there. It was just like these guys on Pikes Peak, for all the drama I make it out to be, for somebody who's not running their own team, who's there as a driver, man, it is like the chillest deal ever. It's like, yeah, I get up a couple hours earlier, but I only work for like 5 hours. So he loved it. He was just, and he was, climbing all over everybody's car and asking tons of questions, and walking around wearing his Notorious B.I.G. shirt, which if everybody's not aware of this, Sebastien Loeb does own a Big E shirt. Really?
I had no idea.
He's a fucking character, man.
He is a character. I think, well, for a while, I wanted to dislike him, right? Because he just dominated so much in the WRC. But especially as he got older and he became more relaxed,
Yeah.
he's just a fun guy.
Yeah, I mean, he's French, man. I never met no damn Frenchies that was fun, but for a French guy, I guess he is, I'm
Do
from
you just
Texas,
pull out
man.
the accent whenever you need to get a little reaction? Is that it?
That's it. I tell you what, man, that's it's the easiest way. That's why, so I call me Texas Dave, boy, shoot. Can't never not know.
Well, that is an awesome experience. You're in a very, very select group that have been able to witness such greatness from Sebastien Loeb and being right there at that moment when they accomplished it and hanging out up there at the top of Pikes Peak. That's just wow.
Yeah, I will say, I mean, I am like boundlessly grateful and immeasurably just like in awe of a lot of the opportunities that I've had in the past 15 years of frankly recklessly playing with cars and trying to figure out how to make a living at this. But that was really that was just such a special. There's a few moments that were like that, and that was one of the most special up there for sure.
So moving along to making a career out of playing with cars. You now have Rally Ready Rally School. How did that come about, and how long's it been running?
Yeah, I started with my co-driver Rob Amato. I started, well, I guess even before Rob and I started on it. I kind of had this idea. I won the Open Class at Pikes Peak 2008, 9, and 10, and much like I'm sure many people in rallying will attest to, you're so excited about this incredible accomplishment, and then you wake up and nobody gives a shit, and so doesn't really matter at all. And I was my early 20s, like, oh wow, this is it, I've made it to the top of the nobody cares list. And so
Rallying in North America, man.
oh man, yeah, it's like it's incredible.
Those in the group, though, it's a very dedicated group, and
oh, for sure,
it's not really like any other, but it is a very select group.
Yeah, it's not like any other. That's only sometimes a compliment. The it's my favorite group of idiots on the planet for sure. And I we came home from Pikes Peak and was just kind of like, well, what the hell do we do? Like nobody cares about this. The only way to make your racing resume, for lack of a better term, into something is to kind of find your niche. And summer 2009, I had just started mentoring with Big Brothers Big Sisters, and my little brother Tyrese hadn't been out of Austin. He was 14 years old. He never left Austin, so we dragged him to Colorado that summer, and his like first taste of being outside of Austin was the Pikes Peak hill climb. And so like first time he'd seen mountains, first time he'd seen snow, first time he'd seen race cars, first time he'd seen any of this stuff. And getting to like look at the world through his lens and getting to experience all of this stuff, that was my 5th year up there. And so for me, it was, already felt like it was already like, I love being up there, but there was a lot of, sort of repetition, and being there with him was like, whoa, it was all totally new to me again. It was so fun and so exciting. And I realized that was something I really, really, I was super passionate about, was teaching and mentoring. And it was something that, kind of came naturally. And so we started talking about a rally school, and fast forward to, it was 2011 that Rob and I really started working on it. So it was, we started talking about it in 2009, did a little work in 10. 2011, we really started the work in earnest, and we basically just started buying shitty old Civics off of Craigslist. And
nice.
I was a Honda kid, so it's like those double wishbone, 90s Hondas just worked so well, and they're so cheap, and there's infinite parts for them, and you can make them slow, fast, or just plain reliable for,
those VTEC motors, you can string them out. They're great.
Totally. Or you get the non-VTEC ones for $250, and you just never lift, and when they explode, you toss it away and you put a new one in 45 minutes. And so we spent all this time and did all these, different studies on what platforms we should use and what do people think of rally cars and blah, blah, blah. And ultimately we're like, you know what, we want to put them in the car that we think is going to be most effective for our curriculum. So we worked really hard on developing a curriculum that really is for all intents and purposes not not tremendously changed. It's evolved certainly to our facilities and to, some of the new cars we run and all kinds of different things. But really the core curriculum we developed, we're incredibly proud of and think is remarkably effective still. We kind of we came up with that. It was like being a cook without a kitchen. It's like writing a cookbook with I don't know, put some of that in there. We'll see if that works. So we did our first sort of test class in the summer of 2012 on a 1 acre parking lot. It was an overflow parking lot at a circle track. And we were like, holy crap, that totally worked. Like we brought in, a handful of different people, some who had racing experience, some who didn't know how to drive standard, and, everybody in between. It was like, wow, they all left here like really talented drivers. And let's try it again. So we did that a handful of times and ironed some things out. And we're like, wow, this like totally works. And it's incredibly quick. And, in 2 days, we were getting people to a level that I was, we were watching them. I was like, it took me 10 years to learn how to drive like that. And so, super excited about it. Really, really stoked, but also, man, it's a lot of work. And so, kind of fizzled out towards the end of 2013. I was building an unlimited car for Pikes Peak. And so I kind of fell into the wormhole there. Partially, part of the distraction was Rob and I were having a meeting October 25th of 2012. And you can tell it's going to be a good story when you can remember the date. And we were sitting across from each other at a little Mexican restaurant in South Austin. And
as you do.
Yeah, bam, loudest noise I've ever heard, and there's dust everywhere. I'm face down on a table, and we were like, had no idea what happened. I thought a bomb went off. I genuinely was like, this is it. We just were a part of a, terrorist attack. And I had no idea what it had. That was the first thing I thought. And like pick myself up at this table and look around, and there's a rusty 1-cow trailer. There's no cow in it, but just a trailer that is parked in the building where our booth was. It had popped off of the hitch of a truck driving past this restaurant, hopped the curb, went through the wall, ran directly into my left leg, which was kind of sitting out of the booth, and missed my shoulder by about 2 or 3 inches. And yes, broke my leg, and offered me a new lease on life in the process, because you never know when you're going to be eating a hamburger at a Mexican restaurant in South Austin and almost get killed by a runaway cattle trailer. So Rob and I each, took away from that our different things. And for me, Pikes Peak had just been this thing that I'd never really gotten to give it the full effort. So I just went all in 2013. We gave it the old college try. Still came up a little bit short, but at least, we got a finish. And then 2014, when X Games came to Austin, we like fully went all in on the rally school again and started kind of stockpiling more cars. Taught, I think, 6 or 7 months out of 2014. And then we were fortunate enough, one of our clients that we met at X Games, we were on a friend's 8-acre property teaching the rally school. And one of our clients that we had met through X Games, he was like, this is the coolest thing ever, man. We need to get you guys a real property. So he bought us what we now call the Rally Ranch out here. We're 40 minutes from Austin on 136 acres. We've got 6.5-ish miles of a mix of, open kind of training area, some forest rally stages, UTV trails, off-road tracks, jumps. I just built
all this through a relationship that you made through doing some of this training you guys have been doing?
Yeah, it was a client. He did a half-day class with us, and we'd had a handful of folks who were like, they would leave and they were like, this is the greatest thing I've ever done. How do we do more of this? What do I do? And we were kind of like, well, we don't have a lot to offer right now other than this and like a couple of SCCA rallycross events. And this guy Adam specifically, who's a dear friend of mine still, he was like, no, we need to do this thing right. We need to get you on a big piece of dirt. So yeah, he bought us this property. We've
wow,
been working with him for 3 years, and we're getting pretty close to being able to buy it from him finally. And that, for us, it was like the Field of Dreams thing. It's like, I'd been told for years and years, get the hell out of Austin, go somewhere where rallying is, or go to California and pursue some precision driving or stunt driving. And I really like it here. I think it's a really cool town, and fortunately the rest of the world started to pick up on that in the past 10 years.
Yeah,
And
it's exploded out there, and
yeah,
obviously, especially with the F1 track, it it has really made it quite the focal point for racing, and of course, for anybody that knows history of motorsports in general, Texas is extremely well known for one AJ Foyt, right? Texas is definitely a home for racing, indeed.
having Coda pop up that was like totally unreal. When that announcement was made, we were like, that'll never happen. There's no way, it'll just never actually materialize. And we drive past and see the groundbreaking and see things happening, and sure enough, we're 15 minutes from Circuit of the Americas now, so we're just a
Wow.
hop, skip, and a jump from all those events. And yeah, we've just been day to time moving dirt and replacing tires, and kind of growing into our own niche in the market.
So obviously, is most of your clientele, I guess, just kind of local to you guys there? That people just wanting to get that dirt experience?
Funny enough, no. We're about 25% of our clients are from Austin. Another probably 25 are Dallas, 25 are Houston, and then the other 25% are from all over the country, give or take, depending on when. I don't remember the last time I looked at those numbers. I spend a lot of time on tractors these days, but I mean, yeah, we. At any given time, we've got pretty much every class. We've got at least a couple of flying clients. We are fortunate enough being in Austin. We have 30 something million people within 3 hours of us. So between Austin, San Antonio, Dallas, Houston, we have Fort Hood, which is the largest U.S. military installation in the world. It's like we have a really, really exceptionally rich population around us, and not wealthy wise, but just like a high density population, and certainly some wealthy folks as well, which sure, I never turn them down. But on that subject, one of the things that I'm most proud of and most excited about, it's like, again, because rallying didn't exist here, this is like our field of dreams. It's like, we had to build something that's not just a rally school, not just a mile of track or a couple of exercise areas to go slide around, but really, like, our goal has always been to provide, from whoever you are, no matter where you are and where you want to go in rallying, we'd like to be able to provide solutions for that. And I've done some arrive and drives years ago. I don't really get the opportunity to do them now, so I send a lot of those off to other clients. We've sent some to O'Neill, and we've sent some folks to our friends at ODD Racing, and wherever people want to go. But we want to be able to take someone, teach them how to drive standard, teach them how to left foot brake, teach them how to communicate with the car effectively, put them in a rallycross, run them through a rally sprint here, and then get them hooked up with a rental car and put them in a stage rally. So we've been really proud of that, and especially now as we're starting to kind of move a lot more towards the UTVs, we're seeing even more opportunities for that.
Well, to give get an idea of just the breadth of what you guys have been doing, I was actually at a Proudly World Challenge race here in Portland, and I saw a Rally Ready logo on, was it a Janetta?
KTM.
Oh, it was a KTM,
Yeah.
That's right.
Yeah.
And I'm like, wait, what? Rally Ready on what?
Yeah, we it's just a relationship business, as they all are, right? And we just have, and I think everybody at all of the other rally schools will attest to the same thing. It's what we get to do when folks come to our schools is we provide, it's like I always tell our new hires and our instructors and stuff, it's like, you are very rarely being hired to teach people how to drive rally cars, right? It's not that that's not your job. It's not that that's not the objective, but that part's the easy part, right? Like eyes, hands, feet, telling people what to do and explaining the exercises and working them through. That's the easy part. It's understanding why somebody's there. That's beyond that. That's your real job. And that's the thing that we focus so much on. I think we really do exceptionally is, some people are there because they really need to spend time with their kid because their kid's been struggling, had a rough year, and or has had an amazing year or whatever, and they want to reward them for these huge accomplishments. For some people, this is living vicariously through us or with us to fulfill a lifelong childhood dream. For some people, it's they just finished battling cancer and they want to they want to just start checking the bucket list off. And, it's there's so much more that we get to offer people, and it's such an empowering experience. And it's really exciting, to watch people, show up kind of not unsure, and especially with our program, because there's just not a lot of information out there, because again, spend more time on a tractor than I should. People show up really just not entirely sure of what to expect, and they leave genuinely transformed. And
For them,
sound,
that's like your Loeb moment, right?
that's it. Yeah,
when
totally.
they go to leave after that experience, they're just like, wow, that was my Loeb moment.
But the thing is, honestly, and I know this all sounds like really hyperbolic and goofy, but it's like, for me, the I that moment with Loeb is like totally surreal, absolutely. But if somebody asked what, like the highlight of my time rallying is, I wouldn't say that. I would say that it was early on, when I had a guy in 2012 in our, but shit, it might have been our first class ever. It was either our first or our second. I had a guy who I'd known for a while. He was just a Subaru guy from the forums, and he was like so excited when we announced this, and he was like, "Yeah, I'm gonna come do it." And but we got through the second day of class, and we were asking for feedback, and we were talking to folks, and just it was our beta class, so we were getting very candid, very raw feedback, and he afterwards pulled me aside and was like, "I just want to tell you guys that I am not only so blown away by how much we just learned and how much we did in that short period of time, but I don't have the words to express my gratitude for the fact that I sat up watching rally cars, all night when I was a kid. I watched, Group B cars, and I watched, WRC cars. And this has been like, I remember watching a car, Scandinavian flick when I was, a kid, and thinking that's the coolest thing of all time. And just assuming that I would never get to do it. And in 2 days, you guys took me from being a useless hack to being able to, to do that. And he's like, am I the fastest driver in the world? Absolutely not. But I completely now understand the the fundamentals of what's happening, and I can show that to somebody and say, oh yeah, I can do that in a car. And he got super choked up and emotional, and I was like, that's what we're here for, right?
Oh, yeah.
It's
God, I love that. That's awesome, man.
Yeah, and it's I know anybody listening to this who's ever instructed a rally class, whether it's at Dirtfish O'Neill, the firm, and CRS school, or anywhere else, it's like that is the most exceptional thing, and we all have a different approach. We all take a different route to get there, but ultimately we're all getting to provide something for people that is it's a lot bigger than just sliding cars in the dirt.
When I've said it many times, I think on our show, that when Dirtfish was just getting going and whatnot, I got in on the deal when they were doing a Groupon, just did a half day class, and I still to this day, all the few skills I learned just in that half day class, there's so much information, and I still use them today whenever it snows.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, it's like drinking out of a fire hose.
I need to go do another one, but that said, it's an amazing learning experience, and fundamentally, what you first learn is how little you thought you knew about driving.
Hopefully, yes.
Right, and
for those
starting from that standpoint,
clients.
It's like, okay, here's the reset. It's like, okay, now weight transfer. That's how that works. Okay.
Yeah, totally.
And again, like you're saying, that guy was like, I get it now, right?
Yeah, totally.
I understand where the limits of control are and how to balance it and things like that. And that's just awesome.
Yeah, and it's like you said, it's the best part is as you learn, like the better you get, the more you also realize you don't know, and which if you've got the right headspace, it's like the coolest feeling to be like, whoa, I knew nothing coming into this. I thought I knew some stuff. Now I know a lot, but really what I realize is I know absolutely nothing, and which is a good metaphor for egos in general.
Right. Well said. Well, I'm going to have you fast forward a little bit. Obviously, your guys' success there with Rally Ready has drawn some attention over the years. And how did this hook up with the Aaron Kaufman shifting gears thing come about?
Yeah, almost any time I'm sitting in a room with other people and we go, man, how did we this or that, or how did we get to know somebody? Somehow it always ends up going back to Pikes Peak for a bunch of us. And it's I this is certainly not meant to I'm not an honest comparison to those who have served, but we always talk about Pikes Peak. It's like war buddies, right? It's like I will never know what it's like to have been in the military, and the folks who have have served. We have several instructors who, it's like they have a totally different connection, a bond that I will never be a part of, and I'll never get to be in that inner circle. And same thing with Pikes Peak. It's like you can talk about it all you want, but it's like unless you've stood on top of that mountain on race day and you have been a part of this thing, that like you're all standing there talking about this as if it's like a totally reasonable thing. It's not. This is not a reasonable thing to do with your time or money. We're all broken individuals with just irrationally dysfunctional life choices, and I don't know what happened to us, but the connections and the friends you make there are just so close that it's like you pick up the phone in the middle of the night if even you haven't talked to the guy in 2 years. And so Aaron and I first met up there in it must have been 2014. Because I still have my Evo up there. So when he was the first year he ran the Falcon, I didn't know who he was. I didn't know any of this. Like, well, apparently these guys are like, everybody's really into these guys, and apparently they have a TV show. So we kind of chatted a little bit and saw him again in 2015 when he came back. And that was my last year racing the Peak. And so we stayed in touch. We did a couple little film projects last year, actually, that still haven't seen the light of day, that I'm really excited about. And then, we're always looking for excuses to do stuff together. And he's been trying to find some excuses to come down here. And so I got a call from him in February. He was just wrapping up the semi-truck build he did. And he said, "Hey, man, Pikes
Peak semi-truck, right?"
Yeah, so they took it to the Pikes Peak Raceway, which was a little bit different, but same deal.
That's right.
It's like half of Aaron's season was just his buddies from Pikes Peak. So, so he called me. He's like, "Hey, man, I want to bring my guys down and have them decompress. They've been just killing it on the past couple builds, and we want to get into the next thing." And so, I was thinking about building a rally car, and we don't know anything about it, anywhere to start. Figured I'd give you a call. I was like, "Cool. So what do you want to? What are you thinking?" And he's like, "I want to drive a rally car. That's all. I have no idea." He's like, "I am 100% totally defer to any and all input and advice. I have no idea what I'm doing whatsoever." He's like, "The only thing I don't want to do is I don't want to show up and be Mr. TV cool guy." He's like, I don't want any special treatment from the sanctioning body, from you, from anybody else." He's like, "I want to do this by the book." So it's like, well then, let's talk cars. So we kind of started playing around some ideas. Of course, people knowing him for his Falcon, my first place I went to was like Mark 1, Mark 2 Escort. Let's build something fun, and you put a new EcoBoost in or something. And he was super into it. And then he started looking up Escort prices, and he was like, maybe something less than all the money.
Those are big projects for sure.
Oh man, I mean, as I found out, apparently so is an open light car if you're Aaron Kaufman. But so I'm really glad we didn't do something that was going to actually be difficult. So we started talking more and more, and I was like, if you want to be like totally the everyman, I say let's build something that anybody watching the show, no matter who they are, no matter what, that they could have access to. And like that, for me, that's the big thing, is like, sure, in rallying, there's plenty of guys out there who have big budgets, and there's plenty of folks who come to our school who are wealthy, and this is just a fun weekend thing. But then there's a lot of kids like me who, I didn't grow up with family money. I didn't grow up with grandpa footing the bill. This isn't like my family's ranch that I just get to play on. Like, I got to hustle every day to pay for this place. And a lot of the kids who watch Aaron, and a lot of the grown men children who watch Aaron as well, and women for that matter, who watch Aaron on TV, like, I want it to be relatable for all of us. Like, I want all of us to be able to watch this and be like, I can do that. And
so was it hard to convince him that, because it's a builder's show for the most part, right? It's about doing these crazy things, and yet here's something a little more average, I guess I'd say. And granted, not that building a rally car is anything normal by any means, but it's not like some super souped up drag car and things like that. It is, about building something that's more reliable than it is high performance.
No, it wasn't a hard sell at all because again, Aaron's objective with this show wasn't to be a build like the biggest thing he wanted to get away from was, well, one, TV, and that didn't work, but two, being like a fabricator hot rod builder. He's like, I don't want to just be a hot rod builder. Like that's what people know him for. That's
Exactly.
what that's who he is in the eyes of the people, but that's not how I know him as at all. Like I know him as my buddy who tinkers with stuff but ultimately loves racing, and that's his number one passion. And so he was really wanted to be less focused on the build, and I was like, which I think you should. I was like, I think you should show that you can do this reasonably, but no matter what, if we cut every corner of the build out, if we go as simple as possible, I mean, this as well as anyone, Aaron,
Hmm.
there will be drama because it's building a race car. And he's like, nope, totally 100% point taken. He's like, so what are you thinking? I was like, I think if you want the most like iconic, affordable, legit, like what is an everyman's rally car? It's a naturally aspirated Impreza. And he's like, dude, I love those things. Let's do it. So um, it was so far outside of the mold for Aaron, obviously.
Right. I mean, it's
Um,
like that must have been the smallest car I think he's ever worked on.
yeah, totally. Maybe I don't know. You get him going on story time. We just drove back from Baja together, just the two of us in a car for 35 hours, and man, I got some stories now. But it's like you always think you know somebody, and then you sit awake with them for 35 hours on
Yes.
the road trip, as
Changes
Aaron calls it.
everything.
Yeah, as Aaron calls it, windshield time. So yeah, we just we're like, okay, let's do it, and so I was kind of thinking, I was like, hey, if I'm not overstepping my bounds, why don't we get Bucky in on this thing to come with us? Because Bucky and I are good buddies, and I knew that he was kind of between projects at the time, and I was like, hey, if he's interested or available, would you? He's like, are you kidding me? What am I going to turn down Bucky Lassa coming and offering to help coach and help develop my talent and help me with this car? Like, yeah. So, you know, I called Bucky and I was like, "Hey, I'm doing this deal there, and would you?" He's like, "Are you kidding? Would does he want me to?" I'm like, "Yeah." He's like, "Yeah, I'd be honored." I'm like, and that to me, that's that's like a total testament to who these two dudes are. Is like, Aaron could be like, well, yeah, let me run it by my production team and let me blah blah blah, and let's see creative wise if Bucky's gonna be the right fit, and Bucky could be like, oh, I'll run it by my agent. What are we talking here? What my never even not a single time was there any talk of of a dollar or a social media metric or anything else. These two dudes were just so stoked because there are if you can find two people who are more passionate about rallying, I would love to meet them because as for all the shit talking people did as Aaron kind of came into this thing is, oh, here comes fucking Hollywood Adam from Grease Monkey's going to come in here with his thinks he's going to rally now. It's like, I mean, he just smiled, and I know that shit gets to him, but he just was like, nah, man, he's like, look, I'm like, this is the coolest thing I've ever gotten to be a part of. I'm super excited to come rallying, and hopefully
I,
people see that I
you
take
know,
it seriously.
I got to meet him first at Oregon Trail. I'm
Yeah.
actually one of the organizers of that event, as well as the media stuff that I do. And uh, yeah, I was actually really surprised. I mean, I couldn't have thought of him being more humble and wide-eyed and just wanting to absorb information. Yeah, he was flat out honest. I don't know shit about the sport, and I'm trying to learn as quick as I can.
Yeah.
Which actually kind of brings me back to you're saying that he kind of came to you wanted to do a rally thing. And how did the idea for him to doing a rally thing come about? Was it just because of Peak being kind of similar to ways rallies are run, or was it and his experience there, or was it maybe the guys coming to your school and learning some stuff? What made him really want to do a stage rally?
I mean, I think you pull anybody who's in any category involved in motorsport, with rare exception, and they'll all probably tell you, oh man, rallying's totally on my bucket list. And I was fortunate enough, pretty much exactly a year ago, actually, to have Daniel Ricciardo out here, and I put Daniel Ricciardo in a rally car for his first time, and I put him in a 2003 Honda Civic Si. It was real screamer. And he sits down and he goes, yeah, man, so what do I do? And I was like, I think you're probably pretty qualified to, for the most part, figure it out. But, it's similar to what you normally drive. Just watch out. It's got some power, all of 114 probably wheel horsepower. And he's like, no, man, I don't think you understand, man. Like, I've never driven a car with a roof on it. And I was like, oh, yeah, huh? He's like, nah, man, only formula cars. Like, I genuinely have no idea what to do in this thing. And, he's like, but, everybody wants to drive a rally car, right? So it's like, well, I'm sorry to disappoint you by putting you in a Civic, but I mean, that's the same as Aaron. It's like everybody wants to drive a rally car. Everybody wants to check it off the bucket list. And for Aaron, the whole point of shifting gears was like, he's like, look, Discovery Channel wants me to make a TV show. And they want me to do car stuff. I want to go racing. If there's some opportunity for me to go racing, and if they want to make a TV show out of it and write me a paycheck, I'm in. So
that's awesome. Who would say no to that, right?
Totally. I mean, if you got all the details of what what it ended up being like and what the guy went through, and if you had been in the BTS of the show, you might not sign up for it. But
yeah.
But not because no ill will on any side of it. It's just
no, it's Hollywood stuff. Yeah.
And the guy he puts himself into things. Anybody who saw his car, who might be able to attest to, like, he just applies himself to things. He is so excited and so dedicated. He can't not just like go bonsai on it. And that's what built, for lack of a better term, his brand is he's so, I mean, that's what his builds were always like. Even when he was trying to keep it simple and, was on a timeline, it's like he can't not just do everything over the top. And which is, of course, what ended up happening with the open light car. It's just like, what, it's like, he was telling me all the stuff he wants to do. And the, production team's talking about, whoa, this and that, blah, blah. I was like, nope, stop, everybody pause. We're going to get on a plane and we're going to go to Oregon Trail Rally because, Aaron, you need to see what an open light car looks like. And production team, you guys need to see how a rally works because as of right now, you have 0% chance of getting a single shot the way that you think you're going to film this.
And I can attest to us working with the Discovery Film crew, production crew, and thank God they came to Oregon Trail first because they had no clue.
Oh,
zero, yeah. Zilch, -1.
No, I told him, I was like, you guys are trying to compare this to King of Hammers. It's never gonna work. I was like,
Yep.
I messaged Warwick and I was like, Warwick,
help,
please, for the love of all that's holy, is there any way that you have 2 hours of time free to come sit with these guys and offer some consultation and some wisdom? If we have to pay for it, like, whatever, please, I will PayPal you myself, like, just please help. And he was like, oh, of course, Warwick being
that's
top 5
awesome.
nicest people on the planet.
Sure is.
He came out and sat and, like, he was like, hey, here's some ways we can help, like, we can share some footage, I'll put some of my guys to help film. Like,
Him and Chris Bowes are amazing people. They really
saints.
are.
Totally.
And their passion for helping promote rally as it is and whatnot. Yeah, I think they all see the value in this.
Yeah, and it worked really well. I mean, there was a lot of, like, I think both Discovery and Launch Control, sort of did a little sharing and some footage trade and some logistics help, and they were really, I'm sure he would kind of say, oh no, I didn't do anything, but he was really imperative to making that a success. But it was like, Aaron, you need to go. Aaron, you have to go. We're going to go to Oregon Trail. You need to go do recce. You need to, like, see a stage. You need to see these cars. And we show up, and the first car he sees is Blake Lynn's, and which is an awesome, like, that's the best livery ever. And Blake's one of the coolest dudes. And,
oh yeah, love Blake.
Like, I've probably spoken a total of, I don't know, 5 minutes with the guy in my life, and I miss him dearly. He's just
right?
Like one of the best dudes. He's a superstar, man. And Aaron was just, like, totally, like, he's like a 5-year-old. Like, we parked in the parking lot at PIR, and like, we're still, like, getting bags out, and Aaron's underneath Blake's car halfway across the parking lot already, and is like asking questions, poking around, but he's like, oh, okay, I get it. Like, maybe I'm overdoing it a little bit. I was like, yeah, let's dial it back, man. Like the whole point of an open light car is that it's in every man's car. Like you don't have to have a power distribution module and mil spec loom here and there and all this like crazy super awesome stuff. I get it. Like you want to fabricate some stuff and you want it to be top spec car, but like let's find a middle ground that's going to get this thing done on time, on budget, and reliable. So, yeah, we did some recce and he was starting to kind of get the language a little bit, and then apparently forgot all of that between the time that we did that at OTR and when he and Krista did some back here in Texas. It was like, oh yeah, no, I think he forgot all of his homework. But yeah, that going to OTR totally. I mean, that was totally what saved the show.
So I get those that have seen the show, the first 3 episodes of the latest season 2 of Shifting Gears is all about the rally stuff. First day, is our first show is mostly out there at the rally school. Actually, first 2 shows, it's really being out there at the rally school and the build. I do have a question though. Was it total bullshit that they messed up the cage that bad?
Nope.
Really?
Nope. So
who would have? Who doesn't think that you have to weld all the way around? The cage.
So here's in their defense. This is, and it was like, I was like, we had just landed from OTR and we walked. I was gonna head back to Austin, and he was like, I'm gonna go pick up the car from Casey's, and I was like, oh well, let's go. I'll go with you. So we cruise over there, and I was just like, oh, there was a lot of factors that played into that. Some of it was being in a hurry. Some of it was some confusion, and and also like I'm sorry, we're just gonna put it out there. We can go to a lot of cars that we see go through tech that like, oh, casually, it's like as long as you can't quite see that area, and like we see cars all the time that roll and crash, and then as they get dismantled, it's like you find junctions on tubes that didn't get welded all the way. I'm not advocating, I'm not making an excuse at all. I was not even remotely like kosher, but like it's a thing that doesn't get talked about a lot. Is there are cars that this happens regularly with, and in their case, he's got a shop full of guys that have a huge amount of motorsport experience in a ton of different disciplines. And like it or not, the term 360 weld comes up in tech in a lot of other kinds of racing, because not always do you have to 360 weld certain tubes at certain junctions. Nobody wants to talk about it. It's not I mean, yes, according to the rule book, but like shit flies and shit is kosher. And where that thing is, the only way to get those tubes welded all the way is removing a shit ton of panels off the outside of the car. And they did. And, but for them, they were just like, there was just kind of like, Aaron was at OTR, he kind of got into this back spot and he just screwed up. He just straight up, like, he was like, hey, cool, got it all done. And I asked him later, he was like, dude, he's like, honestly, there wasn't even a time that I was like, oh yeah, man, I wonder, I should check with Aaron on this, or should we blah, blah, blah. He's like, I got as far as I could with the TIG torch, went on to the next tube, got everything done, checked all the stuff, went around. That was it. Sent it off to paint. Just never, he's like, I like, yeah, when I saw it, I was like, oh yeah, I didn't weld that all the way, but it's building a race car. You just get backed up against a wall and you run out of time and energy, and you just forget, and stuff slips through, and that's the point of a team, is like this stuff, love it or hate it, this is what happens at every level of every different discipline of racing. Is people are people, and like a mistake happens, and it's up to the rest of the team to pick up the pieces. And fortunately for the narrative, or for the TV show, I saw it, and like I thought I was quiet enough that production missed it, but I didn't mean to throw them under the bus. But we were just like, oh, and that was genuinely what you heard. That was me having to, like, I was like, Bob, why don't you tell him? He's like, no, I think I'll let you do it. And I was like, cool. And we sat in the car, and I was like, hey man, you might want to check some of those tubes. And I was a little worried that the messenger was going to get killed. And no, I got a text from him the next afternoon of the unibody in like 1,000 pieces. I mean, it was like completely dismantled. It was crazy. And they got it all done and got it buttoned back up. And but it was like, and
obviously the crew there is top notch. I mean,
yeah,
like those guys know what they're doing. It just Yeah, it just kind of shocked me a little bit that it was
Oh,
something that was
totally,
missed, but
totally.
you know, obviously they were able to jump in and make it happen. But the other things that they do though that was kind of funny in the episode was I guess maybe it was the second one where they um, misjudged the size of the suspension that they ordered or something like that and
No,
didn't
there was
fit and some other stuff and
Yeah, there was again, this was in the 11th hour. It's like, hey, we need gravel suspension, and we called everyone in North America and said, here's what we need. When can we get it? And they're like, well, it'll be this much, and may or may not make it in time. And so we had to go with one of the only options that was readily available. And so
ah
we ordered strut bodies from one person and inserts from another. We had them communicate so that we made sure that they were each sending the correct parts. This was basically the only option that I could find. And so it's like, you guys sort this out, please communicate effectively. I like, played middleman as much as I could and was like, okay, are we on the same page? You got the right inserts for the bodies that you're making? Yep. Awesome. Fantastic. And then the parts showed up and they were not correct. And so, um, yeah. So, as for the 9,335th time that I'm aware of, Nameless jumped in and saved the day. So,
good friends of ours up
yeah.
there, for sure. I spent quite a bit of time with those guys, and they're good people for sure.
Yeah, yeah. In fact, it's funny. The first conversation I had with Aaron when he called me on this, I was like, "You and I should get in a plane and um, we should fly to Portland right now, and we should drive up and go see the boys at Nameless and talk rally cars. That's the first thing we should do." And he was like, "Okay, let's do it." And I reached out to them, and they were busy in the middle of a million things, and so it kind of just fell apart. And then later, as we were ramping up and as press releases started happening and stuff, they were like, "Wait, what's happening?" And I was like, "Can we please come to your shop for the love of all the toys?" Like, "Yeah, totally." I was like, "Okay," because the car's almost done and these guys are going to need some help. And so yeah, they totally killed it. Like, came through with all of the last few bits, pieces, and shop and help and everything. So
Oh, that is so cool. And again, it's a thing with the rally community, right? We want to help. There's people that are always willing to jump in. Um, it is such a tough sport, yet at the same time, there's so many people willing to help to get it done and get it out there.
yeah, and it's and that's the part for me that's the hardest and about most forms of racing is like I'm not going to sugarcoat it. It's just a frankly, it's like a big dick swinging contest with a bunch of big egoed white men, and it's like I think that's most forms of racing, and it's like, God, that is I can't do it. It's like I as much as I love rallycross, I've spotted for a handful of drivers, and I've been involved in the sport a handful of different ways, but it's like it is it's there's so much of that still in that in those types of racing and in sports car racing and in all these other kinds of racing. There's so much to love, but it's like, gosh, this isn't very fun. And every time you go to a rally, you're like, oh yeah, this is what I like. This is the kind of motorsport that I enjoy. It's like there's so much diversity that's like not only politically but socioeconomically and racially, and there's so many women involved in the sport, and more all the time. It's like
I don't think there's a form of motorsport that has more women involved than in rally,
no, not even close.
but by
No.
like a huge margin.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
No, it's
it's
and it's
awesome.
it's so awesome, and it's still haven't still nowhere near as many as we'd like to have involved, of course, and
Oh, for sure.
we're always making a concerted effort to just like find cool women and get them
Well, I was
get
going to
them
get into
involved.
talking about Brienne Corn, who
Yeah,
who co-drove with you, and she's done some amazing shit in her career.
the Brienne's awesomeness transcends just her driving. I mean, Brienne is she and I aren't super close these days, but she's definitely one of my all-time favorite people, and she and I've been through a lot together. We've been friends since 2006, and my the first race I ever did of any sort was in my rally car. Funny enough, before I'd gone rallying, I took it to an autocross, and she was there. I think it was her first autocross as well, and we met sort of in passing, and then there was a rallycross year or two later, or 3 years later in Austin that we were putting together, and she came out and we just became, best buds. And she co-drove for me a couple times. Her first rally was actually in my Type R. I lent to her for an event, and then she was that was her place that we used to teach at back in 2014. So we spent our 6 months of 2014 teaching at her place, and she instructed with me for a long time. And she's really instrumental in making this thing come off the ground. And
Awesome.
She's done a lot of cool stuff. I have nothing but the utmost respect for her.
Awesome. So the guys from from Shifting Gears decide on doing that car. They get the build done. Again, most of us have probably seen the episodes. If you haven't, you can watch Shifting Gears on the Discovery Channel. Although I haven't seen any new episodes, it's kind of odd. But those first 3 episodes from this season all focus on the rally stuff. I was going to ask you, though, what was it like for you working with a film crew? Because I thought it was interesting for me seeing these guys around. They showed up at Olympus, which is the final episode where Aaron competed, and I saw this gigantic Ryder truck show up, and I'm thinking the car's in the back of it because it's huge, and it's nothing but all their film gear.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
I'm like, holy shit! What are we getting into here? Obviously, they're well set up. They got a budget to be able to do this kind of thing. What was it like for you down there at Rally Ready and being inundated with cameras in your face and having to still be somewhat normal with all this stuff around?
Yeah, it was a lot of fun. Initially I didn't really. I was kind of like, yeah, okay, cool. Like this was a really killer opportunity to do something fun with my friend and to get to have Bucky involved. Like the behind the scenes stuff off of our cell phones is significantly more absurd than anything that will ever see the light of day. But it's like,
there's plenty of absurdity in the actual episodes, mind you.
Dude, it's just like Bucky and I can't be left alone. Certainly not unsupervised. Like we had so much fun. But I think Bucky and I had more fun spectating, those 2 events and just hanging out than the rest of the team did, because it was just like just hanging out with all our buddies, and it was a really, really kick-ass time. And Aaron recognized, as did the crew early on, that we had a really unique opportunity here that they recognized alongside me, which was like, this sport is my whole life. This has been everything since I was 15 years old. This is the only thing I have, lived for, again, not to be hyperbolic, but it's like, this is my thing. And, so I want to see it represented in the right way. And the sport as a whole has never had the story told in a way, a lot of the media that's out there, it's like brilliant media. Like launch control, for example, it's brilliant. It's incredible. Sometimes there's a bit of like assumed knowledge for people going into it, though. It's like you have to kind of know a little bit, at least, to be the right viewership. And I think launch control maybe the exception to that. It's, you can kind of just pick it up anywhere. But as a whole, nobody's ever, I don't think, really from point A to point B, start to finish, with a single character walked in and and told the story of going rallying like this. And so we really wanted to do it right. Unfortunately, ultimately, there's no one person who has creative control. So there's like, a huge team comes together, and then it all goes off to an office in California, and then we don't know what happens until it hits the air. But for me, this was like, I put a lot into this time and money and otherwise to help this thing happen for my buddy. And so when they showed up to film, I have nothing but exceptional things to say about Bill Martins and Chris De La Garza, who were in charge of this whole thing. They came in, and first thing is, Bill's like, well, I just want you to know, like, don't censor yourself. And that's when I was like, oh yeah, oh honey, that's not how this works at all. I don't know if I'm capable of that. And so we each advocated really hard for what our positions were. Like, I told him what I needed for this to be a success for me, and Chris said, this is what I need as a DP, and Bill said, this is what I have to have out of it, and this is what the studio has to have, the production company has to have, this is what the network wants. And so and obviously I knew well what Aaron wanted out of it. So, it was we just we just clicked really well, and we butt heads and we argued and we fought in the best way, and everybody ultimately had the same thing in mind, and that was we just wanted to do right by rallying. And so, with the exception of a handful of compromises here and there and a little bit of, of like editing that we may have done differently, I think that the end product did a pretty damn good job representing what it's like to go rallying as a noob, especially again in a way that's digestible and understandable for somebody new to the sport. And so for me, it was one of the most exceptional things I got to do, just because my input was really valued, and kind of like just I became the guy that everybody would call and be like, I don't know, just here to ask Dave. It's like, so I had, it was a lot more than just doing a little coaching with Aaron. It was like, I was mentoring with him and really working on his headspace, because he was just total head case the whole time, and working with the production team on like, nope, you guys, you got it all wrong. That's not how this works. Like this, you've got all these great ideas. None of them are going to work in this environment. Bring it back down to reality. And I had to advocate with the production company. I had to petition for the Oregon Trail trip, and it was like I ended up producing this thing alongside these guys, and
Wow.
and it was really fun, because Bill, again, it's like same thing with Bucky and Aaron. It's like, Bill and Chris could have come into this thing and been like, yeah, this is our job. This is who we are. This is what we do. And instead, they immediately were like, hey, anything you have, any input you have is valuable. And so I was like, hey, cool. I don't want to overstep my bounds. Let me know. And they're like, no, anything at all. And like everybody was so open. There was no egos through the entire thing, and it was just a total joy to work with these guys. And so it was. We were all like, Aaron, not to spoil it too much, but at the end of the last episode is very emotional, and he was not the exception. I mean, it was like we were all incredibly emotional, because as anyone who has competed in a rally understands that, sure, you can have plenty of people who can roll their eyes and can say, oh, he was, he blah blah blah, he was he was third out of three cars, he crashed, he this and that, blah blah blah. Sure, absolutely, that's what I did in my first event. That's I know tons of people that's their first event. Ultimately, though, as we all know, to finish first you must finish, and more importantly, the number one objective for Aaron from day one. I don't care what was said on TV, or how it was scripted, or how it was structured. Like, his goal was only to finish, and that finish came really hard earned. The guy was here at my place every single free second he had, taking this crazy seriously, on the phone with me, 5 days a week, talking about driving, about the car, calling everybody he could. I mean, he took it so seriously. He put every fiber of himself into this thing. And
It really was a foreign way of driving for him, wasn't it?
Oh, it still is. He's still he's got a long way to go. I mean, he admits readily. It's like, we barely cracked the egg. We haven't even come close to making an omelet. So, he's he got in the time he could, and we did so much work with him, and I'm just, I'm so proud of him for seeing it through, and for, despite being just a total head case and being completely rattled the whole time, he managed to get it moving again when things got rough. And
Well, especially when something's that foreign, and obviously, especially when you're in front of a TV audience like that, you don't want to look like a complete idiot, right? And so I can totally imagine it getting to your head, and yeah, you don't want to finish last. You want to be at least somewhat competitive, but he definitely had his challenges throughout the event.
Yeah.
I was going to say that, for me, that third episode, the one where it actually showed them running Olympus, is one of the great productions of rally I've ever seen, as far as just kind of, like you're saying, just getting the knowledge out there to the people. Some of it's really kind of fast paced, and you have to rewind it a couple times on a DVR or whatever to absorb how transits work and all that stuff for those that aren't in the community and understand it.
Totally.
But they did a fantastic job. The imagery is great. The emotions are great. The crew worked hard. Heck, what was also awesome is to see that the some of the ArcLight crew were helping out one of the regional guys who had a suspension. Dave Clark
Totally.
was totally destroyed on the back of his. It was a big log that ended up in the and destroyed his rear suspension and his Mercure. Or wait, no, Ford. So he gets the sponsor dollars.
Yes, of course. Yeah, right.
But and the guys, we got all this equipment here. Bring out the welder and the torches, and try to get him going again. And just the crew was just awesome. And I thought it portrayed Rally really well. So that's awesome that you were a part of that and helped in portraying it the right way. Because a lot of us had reservations of, we really want this to go well. Please don't fuck it up.
Oh, dude, I mean that was like you and that was the hardest thing is coming into it is like I've been in my little corner of the country doing my thing, like I said, either on a Bobcat or a tractor or whatever with my headphones and listen to audiobooks for the past few years. And so I don't there's a lot of people who are like, who is this guy and what is this rally school and what, huh? And which I don't take any offense to it, but it's like, I came in, there's a lot of people kind of going, oh, okay, and I was like very clear. Everyone was like, oh, so do you guys have any adults or is it just all you got, and and I was kind of like, yeah, I've been doing this for a little bit. And as folks kind of got to be like, oh, okay, there's somebody here who knows something about rallying. I was like, look, I promise you, just trust me. Everybody here, we're all on the same team. And like, I mean, you were obviously a part of that and got to meet and see them. And it was so much fun to work with them. And it was so much fun because everybody on production, everybody on the race team, everybody at the rally was like blank check to make it happen, worth of their time and resources and energy. And the guys, all of Aaron's crew, they were so stoked. They had so much fun at the rally because, like you said, it's like, who on earth wouldn't want to help Dave Clark fix his car? It's like, it's like, one, it's fun to help people fix their cars. Two, Dave Clark is another one of those people. It's like,
he's so cool. He's so much fun.
Yeah, if you hate Dave Clark, I don't know what to say. You're a broken individual.
Yes, and, exactly.
He's like there's not a bad bone in his body, and they were just, all the guys were just stoked the whole time. They're like, this is awesome. Like, why don't we do more rallies? And I'm like, because none of us have any money. And I'm like, oh yeah, that's right. But yeah, no, it was cool. The production side was awesome. The getting to be up there, for me, it's been on my list for 10 years to come up and run those events. And so I didn't get to drive, but still just getting to be there and see the other, one of the other rally communities. It was really awesome.
The big moment for me that this was a big success was literally my mom called me because I knew that I had a small bit, where I'm doing the podium interview thing at the end. And my mom says, that was the coolest show and she doesn't watch car shows. I mean, this is my mom we're talking about here. And she thought it was like the coolest thing. She had no idea really what all this stuff I was doing. She'd seen some pictures here and there, but really had no idea. And suddenly she understood.
Oh,
right there, that hit home. I'm like, yeah, they got it right.
Oh, that makes me so happy. It's like I'm just a slightly older, more jaded version of the 16-year-old kid sitting there watching Power Shard videos going, I want that to be me. And I just want, that's all that we wanted. Like, I just want there to be some kid I want there to be some Nebraska Dave who's 16 who's sitting in his house who like played Gran Turismo Sport or dirt rally or whatever and is like, oh, I want to do this, and like this thing comes on, and I wanted those episodes to be his, Pat Richard video. I wanted those to be the thing that lit the fire, and he watched them over and over and over, and like he's planning. And I wanted it to be something where, he'd feel confident enough now, because one of the biggest regrets I have is like, I could have just picked up the phone and called Tim O'Neill. I could have just, picked up the phone and called Vermont Sports Car and been like, hey, can I just come work there for the summer and sweep floors? Like I just didn't have the nerve to do that when I was a kid. And instead I went about it all the hard way. And, and that's what we do now here is like, our goal is to sell people our mistakes. So it's like people come to the rally school to learn, yes, but mostly what they're doing is they're buying our mistakes. They every time they get to a fork in the road, it's when they're here and they're in the car, every time they get to the fork in the road, we explain what to do so they don't make the wrong choices. Like we give them the roadmap to Oz. There's no flying monkeys, there's no wicked witches, just straight to Oz, and they don't have to make all these mistakes. And that's what I love. I love so much about what we get to do, and I wanted the show to be a catalyst for somebody to watch that and go, man, and reach out to us and us help them put it in place. I as much as I love all of our clients, my favorite is when a kid like me comes along who is like, I don't have any money, I don't know what to do, I just love rally, what do I do? And it's the same thing every time. I tell them the same thing. I'm like, I will pay you $15 an hour in credit if you come here and you work and you do whatever needs to be done around here. I will pay you $15 an hour in credit towards whatever class you want. You save up your hours.
Besides, I'm tired of driving that tractor.
No way. That's the only thing I will never get tired of. The tractor.
Oh, okay.
That's the thing. That's my biggest problem is like, I should be in here, doing a podcast. I should be in here, we're doing our marketing and checking our AdWords and running the books and all this other stuff. But it's like, man, I just really enjoy sci-fi audiobooks and moving dirt around. So
that's all good, man.
I just like to sit out on the tractor, but all the rest of this crap, yeah, somebody else come do it. So, I want to be able to provide that opportunity to any kid who's willing to work for it. It's like, any kid who will put in the hours, like there's nobody who cannot take a rally school with me. You can earn a 3-day rally school if you're willing to, come change tires and wash cars and, change oil and learn how to wrench on stuff, and anything you want to learn, like, we'll teach it. And that's what we hoped the show would convey. So, man, I'm really excited. That's awesome. It means a lot.
How's it been, fruitful for you guys? Have you gotten some good feedback and people noticing, who you are?
Yeah, I mean, it's the internet, so we've gotten all kinds of feedback. But the armchair quarterbacks, they never sleep. But no, I mean, I actually don't. I really don't think we've, at least not to my face, had any nasty criticism or feedback. It's been awesome. We've had a ton of people who've called just to be like, oh man, I saw your show, and I was like, what does it cost, and this and that, and they're talking, and then all of a sudden they'll have the moment where they're like, wait, are you the guy from the thing? I'm like, yeah, I'm the dumb idiot with the big cowboy hat. And they're like, oh man, I saw you on the TV. I'm like, you sure did. That is in fact where you have seen me. But it's and that's the same way Aaron is. It's like everywhere we go, people are like, is that you? And he's like, yeah, we oh man, this is my favorite. He was out here just like, us and some buddies a few months ago, and we're goofing off playing with some trucks and UTVs and stuff, and we're like covered in mud, and we go to the local steakhouse down the road, and we walk in, and it was like being the white guys walking into the Tejano bar. Like, we walk in, it's like the music stops basically, and everybody turns and looks, and there's a bunch of people, and they're like, is that Adam freaking Kaufman right now? Are you kidding me, dude? And we're like, oh, I'm like, crap, of course. Like, and so we sit down, and he's like, Aaron? And he's like, yeah, what's going on, man? He's like, what are you doing in my town, dude? He's like, oh, I'm just trying to have some dinner, actually. And he's like, man, that's crazy, dude. Big fan. I'll let you eat, man. Big fan. A guy walks over, and he's like, dude, are you for real right now? Are you Aaron Kaufman? It's like, yeah, it's me, man. Yep. He's like, are you for real right now? He's like, yep. And he turns to me. He's like, is he for real right now? Like, yeah, man. No, it's and Aaron pulls his ID out. He's like, there you go, man. Hands him his driver's license. Guy looks at it like a cop. Looks back at Aaron. Looks at our buddy Jared. Goes, are you for real right now? We're all like, yeah, man. We're all for real. He's like, what are you doing?
But we're really hungry.
Exactly. We're like, exactly what he said. We're like, we're just trying to get some dinner, dude. And he goes, oh, dude, I got you covered, man. This guy's like way out of his mind. Walks to another table, walks back over, sets down a styrofoam to-go box, and opens it. There's a half-eaten hamburger and some soggy French fries. He's like, dude, I got you guys covered. And we're like, oh, buddy, I think we're gonna probably order our own. But thank you. He's like, oh, dude, you sure? We're like, I'm positive. In fact, he's like, oh, are you for real right now? So we're gonna make a shirt just with an outline of Aaron's face that says, "Are you for real right now?"
Nice. One thing I wanted to touch on, and you kind of mentioned it just a little bit earlier in passing, is the whole UTV thing, because you recently ended up rallying the Gorman Ridge Rally in a Yamaha YXZ side by side.
Yeah.
And I wanted to get your thoughts, because it's been kind of this ongoing thing in the rally community. of these types of vehicles running on rally stages, and whether they should be considered equal to cars. Should they be their own separate thing where they can't be on an overall podium? Because they're not a car, so they still can't technically transit in the same way. Thoughts, opinions?
Oh man, opinions. Don't get me started on opinions. I'm an opinionated son of a bitch. I was recently told. Uh, Man, I look. I think that first off, I bought three Yamaha YXZs in 2017 because I very reluctantly I made fun of golf carts forever, and we were like, oh man, these fucking things are terrible. When the Razor came out, we were big eye roll, and I have a lot of friends who are in desert racing, which I'm now racing as well. But we used to watch the Rhinos and the Razors come to desert races, and it was just like, God, who in the hell would want to go race a golf cart out here? And then the Razor got a little quicker, and then there was a turbo model, and then the Yamaha came out with a clutch pedal and a 6-speed sequential manual, and I was like, oh crap! All right, well, you might want to check these things out. They look kind of dope, and they still kind of look like a squash cicada or a praying mantis with
Right?
on a short bus, but it's they
Praying mantis on a short bus. I'm sorry. I think that's got to be the quote of the evening right there.
That might not be the kindest or most PC thing I could say, but they,
it's not wrong. It's okay.
They're rough, man. They're just rough, and then you start putting some, Reese Millen makes fenders for the Yamaha, and all of a sudden you're like, all right, that's a little cooler, and then you pull some ride height out, you put some wheels and a cage on it, you're like, hey, that kind of looks like a race car. But here's the bottom line. You get a bunch of old fogies who, wear denim jackets and are named John Van Lanningham, and they want to
think everybody should drive a Volvo, right?
Good news is John Van Lanningham's 56K is probably down right now, so there's no way he'll actually hear this. But there's all these old fogies on the internet. Wow, that's just it's like, dude, you know what? Here's the deal. I'm sorry. Everything evolves and everything changes. I personally believe, having been rallying for 15 years now, it's like I personally believe the sport is going to have to evolve in a major way, because I can't see the increasing entry fee costs and the lack of the increasing difficulty of procuring road closure permits and being able to permit these events. That's not going to get any easier. Closed event rallies needs to be something that people take very seriously. I know the Van Ways, probably their place for Rally Wyoming last year. Don't know anything about it, but Dylan and I have talked extensively on this subject, especially since he's run JWRC, and then he came back here and was like, oh, yeah,
he's a good friend of the show. We've talked to Dylan many times.
Yeah, it's like, he came out here and was running on our stuff, and he was like, oh my God, you have like WRC stages at your place. And I was like, oh really? That's the nicest thing anybody's ever said. He's like, yeah, they're like sketchy and technical, and like he's like, it was like being in 6 different WRC events on a 2-mile lap of your place. And so he and I love Dylan. Dylan's first event was the only event I ever overalled in. I don't know what year that was, but you probably know better than I do. He and I got to talking about this, and it's like closed event rallies are a serious thing we need to talk about. And I also think that like we also have to address the fact that what's the next GC, because the GD is going to be disappearing just as fast as the GCs are now disappearing, and and not to mention the bless your heart, JVL. I know you're a well-intentioned, borderline sociopathic, misinformed, barely functioning, semi-lucid human, but it's like Volvo is not a practical solution. I don't care what you have to say about Volvos. There's not enough of them. There's not enough of any one rally car, I think, to keep the sport sustainable. And also, it's not accessible. Buying a crappy clunker and finding a shop to put a cage at, like the threshold of entry, it's like a friggin' Rube Goldberg invention just to get a rally car built, because you have to get on the internet and talk to, you have to sift through a bunch of nonsensical weird comments that you don't understand, and then okay, I'll stop picking on JVL now. and like it's like you have to go through all these, you have to like figure out which Facebook group it is and go in there and ask questions, and people get mad at you because the question's already been asked, and so just to be able to build a rally car, it's so confusing and it's so much work, versus there are so many other forms of racing that it's so much simpler and so much more accessible. So we're doing our sport a disservice by taking this massive opportunity, this insane market. The sport UTV market is staggering. If you haven't seen the numbers for
exploded.
It
was nothing 5 years ago.
Totally. Yeah. And
And
it's,
now it's huge. They've got their own. I mean, they pretty much have their own events or at least own classes, like
oh yeah.
especially with the short course stuff, and
I mean,
it is massive.
Best in the Desert runs separate UTV events from their truck and their car and truck events now because it's like it's a stagger. Look at the Baja 1000 entry list in 2012 and look at it in 2018 and look at the UTV numbers. It's insane. But the reason why, and I can tell you, I own 3 of the Yamahas. We just recently bought 4 of the Textron Wildcats to go with that. Plus we have a built Razor here and a whole bunch of others that kind of come and go. It's like this is a race car that you can buy with a warranty that you can insure with total coverage, and you can, the day you buy it, you can take it off sweet jumps. Like it is a total solution race car that you can go run Gorman. You can go the next day. You can just go cruise some trails with your buddies. You can go rock crawling with your buddies in the Jeep Club. You can enter a Best in the Desert event. You can take it down to Baja. We pre-run the Baja 1000 every year in UTVs, and then we race it in a trophy truck. And this year we bought these new Textrons. We were going 75 miles an hour comfortably in our Textron pre-running. We switch over to our $300,000 Geyser spec trophy truck to race. The thing's only 10 miles an hour faster for most of the course. Like it's a $20,000 golf cart or a $250,000 truck, and it's
Right.
20-30% difference in speed. It's just like same thing with the rally cars. It's you can, as you can see in my EWRC results, Snowdrift 2010, and then no rallies until Gorman 2017. And so I'm not saying Gorman was the pinnacle of rally talent at the time, but we had a soggy, sad, tired old Yamaha out there with 2 inches of toe in because apparently we don't know how to check our alignment. I'm not going to say any names here for people that no longer work for me, but we the thing we just went to, we're just going to go have fun. We ran the whole thing in 2-wheel drive with one of my other instructors there as well, also in a Yamaha. It was just basically the two of us playing. And next thing you know, we're like, oh, we were 3rd overall. And, that was just like a total cruise. And, that car wasn't set up for rallying. It was no performance modifications whatsoever, just safety stuff. And, we put a cage, we put door bars, we put OMP seats with head restraints and window nets and harnesses and an intercom and a light bar, and like that was it. So, I look at Nebraska Dave or Iowa Dave or Oklahoma Sally or whoever's getting into rallying right now, and I think of what are the options. I push people towards UTVs a lot because as much as I love rallying and as much as my heart will always be in rallying, and as you mentioned earlier, it's like the thing that's so special about rally is this right now. It's that 1% of rallying is driving on stages, and 99% of it is the love and the community and the camaraderie that is unparalleled in any other sport, motorsport or otherwise. And so while my heart will never ever be away from that, and we will always be pushing and trying to grow the sport, it's like ultimately the only way that I think we can do that is if we look practically at what the future is. And when you present me with a $20,000 machine that can be mid-engine rear-wheel drive or four-wheel drive with massive suspension travel and an exceptional power-to-weight ratio, that I know that when I finish an event, I'm going to pressure wash it and change the oil. It's like it's pretty hard to argue with. And
I agree, but
so
I'm going to throw in there. But should it be on the same level playing field with the cars?
So I actually, for as opinionated as I am, I actually really don't. I don't really care. Like whatever.
Fair point.
Give it its own event, or let it into with the cars. If you're getting beat by a golf cart in your Evo or your STI with active center diffs and all this fancy stuff, and you're butthurt about it, and so that's not fair. I spent a lot of money on my. Well, I don't know what to tell you, man. Like you got you got smoked by a golf cart, dude. Maybe go back to the drawing board.
There's some weight and suspension travel differences, obviously, but yeah.
Yes, but until you've driven a UTV in anger through a corner and you feel like you're on a jet ski because they are not comfortable. Oh man, so here's the thing about suspension travel: it's a double-edged sword. So, you can. The short course, guys have long since made UTVs work well and are fast through corners, and we can make them work. But there's a lot of armchair quarterbacks who haven't been in UTVs who are butthurt because they are rally purists and they know what rallying is, and they don't like the fact that there's something different, and nobody likes change initially. But look, I just don't think the sports is going to survive without it. And this is what happens in everything. Like this is how the world works. Like things evolve,
Right.
things change. This is to me this is what rallying is going to become. And I've had a lot of people. I mean, Aaron's a great example. Aaron, we were like it was like almost a yelling match arguing about UTVs. One of the first nights we were filming the show, actually, we were up till 3 o'clock in the morning, much like this, just me and him and Bucky sitting around a campfire, and Bucky drinking gluten-free beer and making fun of us, and Aaron and I arguing about golf carts. And
Wait, gluten-free beer?
yeah, yeah.
Really?
Have you seen what Bucky can do on a skateboard at age 45?
Yeah, fine. But
I'll,
gluten-free,
I don't,
really?
dude. I don't give a shit. I don't give a shit what he's subscribed to keep himself there. I'll give it to him.
Oh, come on, it's the California fad.
Dude, whatever you want to call it, I don't care. It's working for him because I saw an Instagram video earlier that made my back hurt, like just watching.
Right.
And I'm
No,
30,
no.
so
I like Bucky. He's fun.
Yeah.
It's just fun to give him shit.
oh, I should join the club, man. So, but it's like my take on it is I'm a driver. Like a car to me is it's a hammer. It's like I appreciate a good hammer. I can appreciate the craft, and I certainly like a hammer that can hit a nail well. But ultimately, it's like I'm not interested in blacksmithing a hammer. People are always floored when I tell them I despise working on cars. Like I don't like building cars. I'm not a fabricator or a race car builder. I'm a driver, and so all of the
Well,
other
that was like
things.
what Loeb was saying, right?
Yeah, exactly.
He was just saying that,
Unfortunately,
your job's harder. You got to be driving the truck. You got to work on the car. You got to do all this stuff.
yeah, totally. And but it's like I look at it as what how do we get people into cars? And a UTV is a really really, or side by side or golf cart is what Aaron and I prefer to call it. Is like that is the easiest, quickest entry into something that can be pretty damn competitive, and for that matter, and I understand this debate for sure, but can also be safe. Aaron's argument is he's a built not bought kind of guy. He's like, I think people got to earn it, blah blah blah. And I was like, dude, you're in the 50s, man. This isn't the 50s where a Formula One, you can like build a car in your shed and go enter an F1 race with it. Like this is not where we are now. This is not. It's just not the same era. So I understand the appeal, and I have the utmost respect for people who want to turn every single nut and bolt on their car. That's not everybody, and a lot of people want an option that's going to provide more seat time and also more opportunity outside of just rallying. It's like Stefan Verdier and David Sturks and I have talked about this a lot. It's like, as much as we love rallying, it's also really nice to not have to work on your car at the end of the event. Or in the case of Gorman, I was running the thing in 2-wheel drive and just was like, I don't know, maybe I can be flat through this corner. Wrong. Couldn't be flat through that corner. Ran it wide and smacked the wheel onto a big bank. And had it been a rally car, I would have, folded my quarter panel in, bent some suspension, and DB'd the wheel. But I had bead locks on a golf cart, so it didn't care. Like, the plastic whacked into a dirt wall. I went up on 2 wheels, came back down, and kept going. And I had an off later in the day and got stuck on a rock, put it in 4-wheel drive, backed it up, put it back in 2-wheel drive, and kept going. So, I think the merits there are tremendous. And so, for me, we haven't talked about it much. We haven't really announced it particularly publicly. It's on my website, but we're teaching the first UTV rally school this winter and into the spring, and we're offering a bunch of different platforms, a ton of different cars, and for the first time, you can come learn in the same vehicle. We do rear wheel drive, you do all wheel drive, we go off jumps. It's like rally raid. It's like Dakar style rally. We'll teach you everything from understanding the dynamics of jumping the car and sliding, and we get to use parts of our facility that we don't normally get to use for our rally classes with these things, and it's just another level. I think it's definitely, in my opinion, the evolution and the future of the sport.
Are you using the typical off-road tire on those UTVs, or as we noticed with when Brandon Semenuk was at Idaho Rally, he actually is using a rally tire because he felt that the predictability of how the tire worked on the stages actually was better When you're training these folks on these, are you using actually a rally tire or are you using actually the off-road tire?
So this has been a long standing debate in the UTV world, and there's more and more tires are coming out so fast for these things. There's a lot more options, but that's been
Gotcha.
something that people have talked a lot about. The big problem with the rally tires has been they're so friggin' heavy. Um, these, like you're saying earlier, the power to weight ratio on these things is really awesome, but there's not a lot of power, and so when you add a lot of especially unsprung, rotating mass like that, it's like
Hmm.
it makes a big difference, and it wears through hubs and stuff a lot quicker. So a lot of people have tried the rally tire. I haven't seen a lot of people stick with it.
Hmm.
I haven't actually run these things on rally tires at all, funny enough. So we've got some 14-inch rally tires on order that we're gonna play around with on these things a bit. But we've been fortunate enough to have a really strong partnership with BF Goodrich, and so we've been running their new KM3 UTV tire on these, which is just like a you know, I it's we run a ton of different tires, and there's a lot of different offerings out there, and
I
it's
can imagine you go through quite a few being a rally school, so
yeah. Well, and what's funny enough, and this genuinely isn't a BFG ad. Like, I didn't realize until we partnered with them, but every tire they make is made in the U.S. and that was a huge benefit, especially now with tariffs and things. But the sidewall thickness on a BFG street tire versus a lot of because we run mostly just road car tires for a lot of what we do at the school, and we'll run rally tires on some of the more advanced stuff. But I like people like to slide, and the less grip you have, you do that. So yeah, we run high pressures and street tires, and we started running BFG street tires, and we're like, well, these grip too much. So, but it's yeah, we've started using a lot less tires, and same on the UTV. Run into the switching to the KM3, like they have a much stiffer sidewall like a rally tire, and that's a lot more. But for us, I man, I still I've been doing this for 2 years in the UTVs, but I'm still a total noob in terms of, there's folks out there that are racing full time and trying a million different things, and so we defer to them on a lot of that stuff, and it's really exciting. It's really exciting to think about being able to take a car and go run. I mean, you could take a car and run Baja 1000, Pikes Peak, and a rally with the same car, and that could be a
yeah.
Razor or a Textron or whatever, and you can fit that on a 14-inch trailer and tow it with your Forester. It's like, a 14-foot trailer, I should say, and tow it with your Forester. So I'm a convert. I made fun of him for a long time, and I'm like the world's biggest UTV advocate now. I'm a huge fan, and I'm excited for more people to get to check them out. So if there's any rally folks out there, um, who are thinking about UTVs or interested in them or curious about it, give me a call and come down to our place, and yeah, let's play with some of these things. So
Well, and you mentioned Textron and their Cat series, and um, actually, interestingly, ARA, what I recall from last year, or the 2018 season, and I'm guessing going forward, has a partnership with them, and
yeah,
they're looking to help promote in those events that at least legally can allow UTVs to run. There's I don't know if it's a contingency program. I think there's something that they're going to be trying to do to help out those that are wanting to get into the UTV space. But I know ARA is definitely working towards expanding that a little bit. As you said, it's the cost of entry, at least to get into it. Um, Not all events can do it, or they'll maybe have limited stages they can run because of legalities from transits and
yeah.
laws in different states for being on public roads. But um, it definitely gets people out there, and again, a more affordable way to get the experience.
Yeah, and certainly, a lot of people go, "Oh man, but those things start 20 grand, blah blah blah. My used rally car only costs." It's like, hey, I totally get it, but you have to remember, you're talking about a car you're talking about like an open class spec car for a fraction of what it would cost to build anything, or an SP maybe, but
Well, and also throw out there that as we move forward, one of the challenges that I've been seeing more and more is the technology where we're taking the driver out of the vehicle
yeah,
and it's more computers controlling things. Um, a perfect example is the issues that Team O'Neill's had in when they were developing their Focus RS rally
yeah,
car, making the only ones that were in existence. and they had to get special permission and an engineer from Ford out there uh, to change the chip, the programming, because otherwise you're not allowed. Basically, until they get somebody that can reprogram the whole damn thing on their own. Um, After I think it was like 12 minutes of basically sliding sideways, the car would go into limp mode, and it's just built into the car to automatically like, nope, you're fucking around too much. No thanks, and it goes into like front wheel drive, and that's a huge issue with not just that car, but all modern cars are moving towards this. And so if we want to still have a sport where there's at least some sort of new vehicles being introduced, this is another option.
Well, and this what I was kind of alluding to earlier is like, what's the next GC? What's the next There's no next platform for rally cars because they're all that. Not to mention, we could go down a whole nother rabbit hole of like the future of the automotive industry is electric, autonomous, and it's also rideshare. We are probably the last generations that will own vehicles. This is the common thing: is everybody gets upset and angry and blah. It's like, hey, I get it. I'm not whether I'm for it, against it, or ambivalent to it. The bottom line is like, this is most likely what we're going to see. Again, this is, even Aaron and I argue about this constantly, and I don't claim to know all the answers by any means, but it's very likely that, I mean, look at what's already happening with, like you just said, with Ford and John Deere specifically, and a lot of manufacturers are advocating for that. You don't own, like, they don't want you to own your vehicles anymore. Like, everybody
Right.
wants you to lease, because nobody wants you to own anything. The less crap you own, the better for a lot of these, frankly, corporate interests. Not to get political about it, but it's like
Right.
that's where things are moving. And so, not to mention, there's nothing that's being manufactured purely for the joy of driving or for recreation. And there's nothing on a Yamaha YXZ or a Wildcat XX or a Razor or a Can-Am that is anything other than pure joy and pure driving recreation. And
Yeah,
so,
I think what's one of those ends of an era, and one thing that I really, really respect about Akio Toyota, who's been, helping their WRC team, get going.
mhm,
He seems to be one of the last of the CEOs that has a passion for cars and a passion for racing.
yeah,
These days, most all motor companies, it's a board of directors, and they're looking at the quarterly earnings report. They could care less about the joy of driving.
no, nothing matters other than the shareholders. That's the only thing on everything that we do as a culture is driven by shareholders, and that's it. And if shareholders, nothing matters other than the shareholders, and not employees, not the health and well-being of your company, not the environment, nothing but
Boy,
shareholders.
we are
And
really going down this black hole, aren't
hey,
we?
man, you can cut what you want, keep what you want, but it's like, but it's true. And I do think it's relevant, though, because it's like, this is you know everybody wants to, like, passionately defend their hobbies and their passions. It's like, whether we start talking about firearms or rallying or whatever, and good or bad, it's like everybody has their defense for their passions. And I agree with a lot of those people on a lot of their fundamental argument against the dissolution or evolution or devolution of the way we engage with certain products in our environment. And I think this is just another example of that. It's like, this is, well, I'm not here to be a doomsdayer, a naysayer, as Mike Halley likes to say. People have been saying it's the end of rally for 30 something years. And it's like, right. And so if you're telling me for 30 years people have been predicting that the sport is in trouble, just because it hasn't happened yet doesn't mean it won't. And I, that the writing could be on the wall, and I don't think it is. I'm not, again, I think we have probably the strongest season ahead of us, and that we've seen in a really long time in rallying. And I couldn't be more excited to get back in a car this year, or a golf car for that matter. But I do think that at some point we got to be ahead of the curve and make the shift. And for us especially, it's like, look, if we go back to the rally school, I think that Tim has a fantastic program. I trained at Team O'Neill, I should say, in 2007, and Wyatt is still one of my dearest friends, and I was just emailing with those guys today. They're Dave Wallingford's gonna be back in his R5 car here in a few weeks.
I'm so excited to hear about that.
Yeah, it's I probably just spilled the beans a little bit, but sorry, Dave, because they're good people, and
They
I
are.
love the guys at O'Neill, and I'm not fortunate enough to know a lot of the folks at Dirtfish other than a few friends of mine who've instructed there, but I know I know that Steve and James are two of the nicest people who have nothing but the best intention for the sport, and have worked tirelessly for a long time to help grow it. And so they have amazing programs. We have our own program here. I've been fortunate enough to live a pretty absurdly surreal life for the past 6 years, teaching people to do this and traveling to WRC events and Pikes Peak and places all over the world. And so you know I think our niche is really UTVs moving forward. That's the place that we really want to build our niche and build our brand. And so I've worked really hard for the past 2 years to position ourselves to be in a place where we're the place to go if you want to do that. And I think that the terrain and stuff we have here really reflects and complements that. And so yeah, I'm excited to get folks in these things and go chuck some skids, as my Kiwi friends always say.
All right, Dave. Obviously getting a little bit away from the UTV stuff, but I guess somewhat related because they seem to race in this event as well. You ended up doing a more recent experience where you did the Baja 1000.
I did, yeah.
Explain that one. I even saw your name on the side of the truck there.
Yeah, so a much lesser known story is that last year I actually went to race as well in a trophy truck, and I had Alex Karani come. We flew old, as I call him
Oh,
now.
I love Alex, Rally Brat.
No, we've renamed him Rally Brit now, actually.
Rally
So
Brit. Oh
he's
yes, he's
yeah,
dual
no,
citizenship now, isn't he?
he's dual citizenship now. Yeah, so he's Rally Brit now. So yeah, we actually he flew over last year, and we made something like, I don't know, it was like 150 pages of notes for our section of Baja 1000, and we were all ready to race a brand new trophy truck, and like it would have been the coolest thing ever. We took some advice from Reese Millen, who's obviously had a lot of success in Baja over the past few years. We got some advice from him, and we came up with this really awesome note system for the like super nerds. I'll make it short, but it's like, so you've got a GPS, two actually on the co-driver side of the truck. And so they show you the course, on a GPS track. And so what we would do is Alex would call them descriptive off of the GPS. So he'd say medium right, fast left, whatever. And if those were all good, I wouldn't make any changes. But if he came up to something that we weren't clear about, or if it got really technical, then we would do numerical. So if he called like a left 4, I would know that was a numerical note. So that means that was like a pace note we created. And we'd add normal pace note details, trying not to add too much and make it overwhelming because it's 300 miles that we were doing, at least in our stint. And so it was this really cool system, and like a lot of his notes, in there off to the side would talk about what's off the track, because in Baja you have a lot of passing and a lot of overtaking in dust. So like, it may be the middle of the night and you may be driving, 40 feet off the bumper of another truck that's going similar speeds. You're having a hard time passing them. So you're just driving blind in dust. So you have to know, like, okay, what's next to me right now? If I go to the right or left, am I going to like center punch a boulder or a cactus or a house? Like, so it was really cool system. But yeah, so I had a client last year who came to me and was like, hey, we've raced Baja 1000. We want to, we're buying a new truck. We want to, do it proper this year. We'd love to have you come drive with us and do some coaching. So we did some training with them. They didn't have a lot of time available to do much driver training. So it was like, we didn't really get to go far. He was like, I'm a race car driver now. I'm like, well, you spent 2 afternoons in a golf cart at the ranch. Let's slow ourselves down. So he gets this brand new fancy truck, and each of the 2 owners of the truck at separate times rolled it end over end. Both of them on separate occasions crashed it and broke their back. Both fine, not. But the irony is the second guy, the main owner, he crashed 34 miles into the Baja 1000, which an 1150-mile race, he made it 34 miles and broke his back. But the good news is he's top 5 spine surgeons in North America, so he had a good team he was better. He was all back together in no time. So Alex came last year. We didn't actually get to drive. We only got to pre-run, which my policy with Baja is like, we go down to pre-run the race, which is like recce on steroids.
Yeah, explain that. So,
yeah,
what? How does pre-run work?
Oh, so take everything you know about recce and just just fucking chuck it in the bin. There are no rules. Once you cross the border in Baja, it's like, all right, do whatever you want. You can, I mean, you can legitimately, you can pull a transporter through the border, they'll stop, go through all your paperwork. Yeah, okay. And then if you want, you can just unload your razors, your trophy truck, and just drive that all the way down the peninsula. It's free for all, anything you want to do. So pre-running, you get the GPS file, you load it on your Lowrance or your lead nav, and you just go off. You can go as fast as you want, as slow as you want, do whatever you want. It's not a track; it's just the desert in Mexico. So
right. So essentially, you can run the exact course that you're going to race ahead of time.
Yeah, you do. I mean, you really.
How far in advance do you get that information of the route?
So the like my dad's on the Forbes list teams that have millions of dollars, and it's just like this is all they do. The second that file comes out, which is in October, like those guys load up their pre-runners, which is basically like a trophy truck with a windshield and carpet and AC, and they go down there and they pre-run. And I mean, some of these guys will pre-run, like there's guys who will Ironman the race, meaning do the whole thing start to finish, one driver, and they'll pre-run it 2 or 3 times. We're talking like 1,000-mile course, they'll drive 2 or 3 times before the race. It's crazy the commitment people have to, just like a rally, a thing that nobody really cares or remembers that you won it other than you, and your mom's real proud. So yeah, so pre-running is just, you just go down and you do whatever you want. And it's like, it is the coolest, most fun thing ever, because you can like for Alex and I, it was like totally surreal. We're just cruising along and like, be like, well, let's just stop, get out, hang out, like make I always bring a Jetboil little camping stove, and yeah, I just bring backpacker's pantry and Jetboil, and like just hang out on the side of the track in the middle of Baja and have some, pad thai or lasagna or, whatever
Nice.
freeze-dried food we bought. But yeah, man, we just like, it's the coolest thing ever. And I can honestly say pre-running Baja may be the most fun thing I've ever gotten to do in racing. It's really special. I think we're all chasing some like level of epic in racing that is often feels unattainable. And when Alex and I last year were pre-running in Mexico, shirts off in a bright yellow YXZ with no roof, we're just like, ripping along in the desert, and we come over this ridge, and it's this incredible vista, and we stop, and I'm like, is this not one of the dopest moments of your whole life? He's like, this is it. Like, this is what it's all about. And it's just totally surreal. And it's like, you're isolated. Like, our radio only goes, 10 or 20 miles at best. And so we only have comms with our team if we're 20 miles away. And so it's like, we didn't bring a satellite phone. We just brought a backpack and some bootleg fake Oreos and some Austin and cracker sandwiches and some freeze-dried meals and like a jacket. And we're like, well, hopefully this thing doesn't break. And it's a miracle we survived any of it. But it's like,
and that's just the pre-running.
That's just the pre-running. And so so that was last year. I didn't end up working with that team again this year, but another client of mine and really good friend of mine who's been really instrumental in helping us grow the school this year. He his name's Charles Dorrance. He called up and he's like, yo, I got this geyser. I haven't raced it yet. I'm doing Baja 1000. You want to race? I was like, yeah. So we were chatting, and Aaron was down here one day, and I was like, we should get Aaron to drive us. And he was like, yeah, okay. And his schedule ended up getting really crazy. And this is the kind of dude Aaron is. Aaron was like, he's like, look, here's the deal. I could get in the truck and I could go drive. I've never driven a trophy truck. And I'm nowhere near as good of a driver as you, and my schedule's crazy. I don't think I can even commit to testing. I just don't feel like I would be able to bring it for the team. So he goes, I would love to be there. I'd rather co-drive for you. I was like, done.
Cool.
So yeah. So Aaron hopped in the right seat, and he killed it, man. He was he's no Krista. Like he's it would have been, like having somebody like, Krista in the car who's a co-driver, or somebody like Alex, like would have been a totally different experience. But, Aaron and we're so close. We have such good chemistry. We've worked so much together this year. And also the advantage, obviously.
And chemistry is part of the co-driver thing, right?
Huge part of it, obviously. Having Aaron in the car sure feels good when you think about if the truck breaks in the middle of the desert, like that's the guy I want riding with me. So, I've seen the guy MacGyver some pretty wild shit. So, but yeah, we went and pre-ran and just had a super awesome time. So much fun. So the section we got is 200 miles of basically Gorman stages. Like it's just like flat out fire roads and some big whoop sections here and there, but it was like totally the rally section, and which is good because I still have a herniated disc from last year, and so it was like we went out, we're pre-running, and Aaron's just like, dude, holy shit, there's nothing that could have possibly been handed to you that's more you. And so we do our pre-running, and come race day, we're sitting out in the middle of the desert waiting on the truck, and I got a bunch of friends who are racing, and we find out all of them are broken within the same 5-mile section, about 20 miles before where we were going to get in the truck. And sure enough, we get a relay channel comes on and says, hey, I just want to relay to you guys, your truck is broken at this mile. And we're like, oh fuck. So yeah, sure enough, and there's 3 drivers. It was Charles, who owns the truck, and then a guy named Glenn Plake, who's an old freestyle skier from the 90s. He was in the truck, and the steering broke while he was in it, so he was stuck, couldn't turn the wheel, and damn. So 3 times they come on and tell us the truck's broken. So I guess if we're going to tell a story, might as well not leave any details out. So Aaron and I go to sleep. We're like, oh well, truck's broken, no dice. So we don't pack up the fueling rig and stuff because we're like, hey, you never know, but let's not. So we you wear a condom catheter in Baja, so you can just pee while you're driving, and so we have these pee tubes on, which is basically like a condom full of crazy glue.
That's enjoyable.
I recommend it to no one. And
right.
So I'm like, I'm not wearing this fucking thing. So we're like, it's like pulling off a Band-Aid to the nth degree times 1,000.
Yeah, ow.
To the infinite power. And so we're like, well, at least I'm not sleeping with that thing. So we go to sleep in the truck. 4 hours later, I got, bang, bang on the door. And one of the other team members, who I don't even know where he was on the peninsula, he comes up, he's like, truck will be here in 5. We're like, what truck? And I'm like, crap, I got to poop, dude. Like, man, what do I do? And sure enough, I look over, and like right as I'm thinking that, truck pulls in, and I'm like, okay, so I got to go number 2, and I don't have a tube to go number 1. And does anybody know where my gloves are? Like, no. Okay, well, I need my gloves. So I'm like, I go from being asleep, like dead, like full on, like REM sleep.
Yeah, REM sleep. Yeah, you're like full on dead to the world. Yeah,
100% to racing the Baja 1000, about to poop my pants in about 5 minutes, and so Aaron and I hop in this thing. I've never even driven this truck. We didn't get to test it. Like, I went to Vegas to test it a couple months ago and had a little mechanical issue. So that was it. My first time driving this.
And this is a true trophy truck, right? How many horsepower?
Yeah, so it's a spec trophy truck. So the trophy trucks are unlimited. It's basically like we'll say it's Higgins cars versus Sam Albert's car. It's like an SP car or whatever they're calling them now, limited car versus an open car. So so spec trophy trucks are all it's an unlimited chassis. You can do anything you want. The only rules are it's a sealed like crate LS3 and a turbo 400 transmission. So
okay.
They all run the same engine and transmission. So it's 550 horsepower, something like that. I honestly don't even know. All of nothing at the wheels once it gets to there in a 6,000-pound truck. But more travel than a cruise ship, and it's
right.
it's so we get in this thing. It's like we were supposed to get in at like 10 o'clock at night. It's now fucking 6 a.m. and the sun's coming up, and it's that early morning. Like you're
talking about suspension travel in feet, not inches, right?
Yes. It's infinite suspension travel, and so. Yeah, I mean, so we get in this thing, and like power steering's barely working. We start driving and it kind of comes back on, but it's like I just hop in, we turn in, like, okay, we're on the track now. It's like, all right, well, we're racing. And I've been fortunate enough to do enough weird racing in the past couple of years. Like I don't really get nerves at all anymore. Like I which is exciting. Aaron, on the other hand, is like, fuck yeah, let's do this. Let's go. All right. And he's amped. And he's like keeping it cool, but he's like, all right, man, here we go, and it's like, he is like Hollywood, man. He's ready to go. And so we get going, and I start to get the rhythm of the truck, and like, we're like, holy shit, man, we're actually doing it. And I was like, I'm like, fuck yeah, we get about 20 miles in. He's like, it's not too bad of a way to spend your, Sunday morning. And I was like, I don't hate it at all. Saturday morning, I was like, I don't hate it at all. And we start, as soon as we get comfortable with the truck, we just start, we start peeling trucks off, and we started catching a bunch of folks in our class and a bunch of other folks, and so we ended up being the according to Aaron's math, the fastest 6100 by a pretty staggering margin. We passed one of the faster trucks in the field at mile 540, and when we got out of the truck at 670, we were 35 miles in front of them, and it took them 2.5 hours to catch up to us. Unfortunately, the truck blew up 30 miles later. Number 8 connecting rod shot its way into the Pacific Ocean, but yeah, no, I mean, it was the best DNF I've ever had. We were, everybody on the team was just totally on cloud nine. Like everyone got to drive, and we proved that we had a hell of a team. And yeah, I was excited. Rally drivers often come into off road and they don't last long. They do the old Armin Schwartz, which he of course last drove for Skoda, and then he started racing in Baja, did some off road stuff, and he could never finish because rally guys are so used to driving the limit of the car and the limit of the road. It's ragged edge. It's like Baja's all about being conservative. It's all about driving.
It's about managing the equipment more than it is managing the conditions and the road, right?
Yeah, I mean it's really
that's part of it, but yeah.
It's really about just understanding and thinking. It's like, in rallying, we're always eyes up, eyes up, eyes up. Well, in off-road, yeah, totally eyes up. But like you do actually have to you got to check right in front of the truck, because there's oftentimes you're going fast enough. It's like there's stuff that you don't see until you're on it. And so, it's a really different skill set. Your terrain scanning is different. Your pedal behavior is different. Like we pulled the data. We were probably wide open throttle for, I don't know, a total of, maybe 4 minutes in our 4.5 hours, if that, probably less than that. And it's, you just go super easy on your equipment. You just, you partially you can use your body as a metric. Like, when you start to feel like your spinal column is 2 inches shorter, you go, maybe we're going a little too hard here. But yeah, and I man, it was totally really incredible experience to run one of those trucks there. And we finished, and there's one section, the truck does 103, tops out in a straight line, like it, because they're geared so short, and so we're just kind of on the chip on this thing just about, and we come into this, we're going over a big, kind of rough whoop section, and I do a little scandy flick and pitch it into a corner, and it slides for feels like an eternity, and we finish and we get out, and Aaron's like, hey, remember that time? And he's like, the rest of the day we're like, hey, remember that one spot where we came up with a thing, we did a thing? He's like, yeah, that was dope. He's like, dude, remember the time when you came into the corner? He's like, remember that big scandy flick you did next to all those spectators? I was like, I don't know what you're talking about. I didn't do it for the spectators. He's like, well, look, all I know is when you initiated that flick, I looked down and we were still going 93. And I was like, well, Scandy flicked a trophy truck at 95 miles an hour. Check. We can say we got that one off the old bucket list. He was like, that was the coolest thing I've ever been a part of. We had so much fun.
Now I got to ask though, what's next? What's next for Texas Dave, Rally Ready, and Aaron Kaufman? What's it going to take to get you guys back doing the stage rally, or what do you guys plan on doing?
My goal has always been go rally as much as possible. Apparently, what's been possible is none for better part of a decade. But my goal was always, I realized that I wasn't born into the money, and I hate to use that term, and I hate to be dismissive of people who are fortunate enough to have the means to go rallying, whether earned or otherwise. Like I'm stoked to see anybody out there, and so I'm excited to get back there. But for me, it's like I realized that I needed to figure out my path, and so I started building this business. We've been really, really fortunate, especially this year, to have grown a lot, have a lot of success, and so I think it's finally time that the business can afford to send me racing a bit. So next year, Aaron and I are kind of partnering in a little bit bigger capacity on some racing stuff. We're trying to get out and just do as much as we can. So I think we're hoping to do 3 rallies next year, 3 ARA events. I'm not sure which those would be. There's some talk and some speculation. I'll need to consult with some folks internally to see which ones are going to be UTV friendly. We've been having some really awesome chats with the folks at Textron. So between Aaron's rally car and I've got 3 instructors here who are all building rally cars right now. we're definitely going to be at some rallies. We're working with a team on the full Best in the Desert Championship, and we're running the full Score Championship. And I think we've got a couple of UTVs to run the Lucas Oil Short Course Series. So, and then a couple of international events. So that's what we're hoping to do racing wise. As far as the school goes, we've got a lot of stuff that I don't really know what I'm supposed to talk about and not. So whatever. But there's a couple locations we're looking at. And a couple things.
All 5 people that are listening, that
Yeah.
they're okay with it.
Well, but you know how it is. There'll always be the one person who is like, aha, and it's gonna download it and send it to whoever.
To John Van Landingham, yes.
That's it, JVL, man. The Super Troll 9000. Is he like real? Has anybody actually verified that he's a real human? Is that like a thing? Because it's. All signs
he
point
is
to
real because he was on the Easier Said Than Done.
Yeah, but Matt Johnson is very talented, and he can totally.
He could have created the character.
Yeah,
that's true.
How hard would it be to how do you just cast that? You're like, I just need someone who hasn't showered this decade, who looks like they put away a fifth of liquor right before 4 pounds of Taco Bell. Who do you have? Like, oh, there you go, bam. There's like 50 people he could have cast for that. I just feel like you don't have to pull any punches because Lord knows fucking JVL never has. So, but yeah, no, I'm really excited to do some rallying. I'm super excited for some changes here. I went to the Nitro Rallycross earlier this year, and I was like, yep, I want to do that. So we're playing with some ridiculous stuff here at the ranch. We're building some stuff that we're really excited about. That'll be super fun.
Freaking Nitro Rallycross. I mean, if you look at the stuff that Pastrana comes up with in his brain, and you're just like, dude, are you serious?
Yeah. Once you get to Nitro, you're like, oh, okay, well, here's what it looks like. This is like a neuro map of Travis's brain. And it was incredible. I mean, he for a guy who like is just super ridiculous and silly and over the top with everything, and like everything he does is like a joke. There is nobody who's a more consummate professional, and I'm always impressed with who he is and what he does. But Nitro Rallycross was super rad, and so I was just really inspired by what he did there. And last year I had a really rough 2017, so or 16 I should say. So early 17 I packed up and just travel. As soon as the new WRC cars came out, I was like, well, got to go see those. So I went to Rally Sweden, Mexico, and France all back to back and spectated and then spent time in Australia and New Zealand on some rallies there. And so I came back with like all these ideas and inspiration for our stages and roads and facility here. And then the problem is I went to Nitro and did the same thing. So we're building some cool new stuff at the ranch I'm really excited about. Obviously our UTV program is about to kick into full swing. And then, looking at a couple other locations that the brand will sort of evolve into, and then a handful of TV projects for next year.
Excellent. Well, yeah. I'm looking forward to 2019. It's a hell of a schedule that ARA's got now, with the somewhat demise, I guess, if you could say, of Rally America moving into a media role now.
Yeah.
With a recent announcement, but it's kind of become, I guess, in a way, a unification, which we've been hoping to see. I'm excited to see you out there. Hope to see you at some events.
Yeah.
And
sure.
Aaron as well. And is there any last words before I let you go? Gosh, it's getting kind of late over there, man. We've been talking a long time.
Oh shit, it's almost midnight. This
right?
It's about a normal workday for me. No, no, man, it's been a pleasure as always, and to you and all the incredible folks up in the Pacific Northwest, I haven't gotten a chance to say thank you enough to everybody for helping with our project earlier this year. I had so much fun up there getting to hang with you guys, and yeah, anybody who's interested in kind of learning more about what we're doing, and specifically, especially our UTV program, which I'm super excited about. Feel free to call me anytime. The number on the Rally Ready site, just rallyready.com, rolls to my cell, and 9 times out of 10 I'll pick it up in the middle of some absurd project, whether I'm herding some rescue dogs around or driving a tractor or whatever. I'm always up to chat rally. So hopefully we'll catch up with some folks soon, and like I said, we'll see it at some events up in your neck of the woods, I hope, very soon.
Sounds good. All right, well, Texas Dave of Rally Ready Rally School, dude, it's been awesome having you on the show. Thanks so much for taking the time.
Yeah, thank you, man. Let's do it again soon.
All right. Well, take care, and we'll be talking to you in 2019.
Cheers, man.
And that wraps up this episode of the Open Paddock RallyCast. Remember, you can subscribe to our show on iTunes, Google Podcasts, or search your favorite podcast app. We are also on all the popular social media platforms, and you can follow our shows also on YouTube if you prefer to listen to us there. Please subscribe, tell a friend, give us a like and a share. We are always especially appreciative of feedback. Thanks again to our guest, Texas Dave Carapetyan. I think I got it finally right that time. I'm your host, Mike Shaw. Thanks for listening.